in beginning to think about the design of a reward system for an organization, when we think about that reward system sitting within an existing employment relationship, the key thing that we cannot afford to ignore, the key thing that affects rewards and the employment relationship more than anything else, is the financial strength of an organization. We only have to look at what's happened to organizations that have struggled with years of recession post the financial crisis since 2008 to understand how that financial basis, the financial bedrock of an organization's existence, sits behind absolutely everything. And study after study, going back to William Brown's consideration of how pay setting works, and everything since then, has really focused on this issue of the organization's relationship with its own product markets as being absolutely central to the setting of pay. We might think about labour and about the pricing of labour, setting wages, as being a market issue surrounding labour, so therefore a labour market issue. And it is to some extent, but underpinning all of that, underpinning all of the other issues about labour market that we're going to deal with subsequently, is the organisation's financial strength, its ability to pay its employees what they think they deserve, its ability to pay its employees what they would like to be able to pay, what they think they need to be able to. An organisation's ability to do all that rests in its product market relationship. So whether an organisation's product market situation is very light and permissive, or it's very strong, an Apple of this world with incredibly deep pockets, or whether it's an organisation which is struggling in a much more difficult market situation, those product market factors simply can't be ignored. Now, that's not to say that we can simply look at an organisation's product market situation, their financial strength, and read off from that, A, the kind of employment relationships that we'll find in there, or B, the kinds of rewards that that organisation will offer. Because there will be a variety of responses, a variety of ways of managing and paying labour in any competitive situation. But that competitive situation is absolutely unavoidable. It's a clear constraint. And obviously those constraints become much more apparent. They become much more of a clear and obvious constraint the more difficult that competitive situation becomes. So when an organisation is under a severe competitive threat, then that constraint becomes a very clear limitation on what an organisation can do and what an organisation might be willing to do, on the way that managers will behave in terms of the setting of pay and the managing of an employment relationship. So product markets and the financial strength of an organisation are absolutely key issues to understand when we approach the business of setting pay in an organisation, when we start to think about the design of reward systems. Now, product markets are important in this way for obvious reasons. As we just said, they are and represent the organisation's ability to pay, but they take on this importance because labour as a commodity within an organisational setting is different from other commodities. You know, we buy and sell commodities in market situations, and they have a certain value that we can rely on to a certain extent. Labour is different. A, because we don't simply buy it. This isn't slavery. We're not purchasing somebody. But more particularly because the value of labour to an organisation is only ever potential. We might think that we know the kinds of behaviours, the kinds of skills, the kinds of talents that we require in an organisation. And so we attempt to recruit people who possess those kinds of skills and talents and behaviours. But the capacity for that to translate into actual value is only ever potential. We can only realise that potential value of the people within our organisation, the potential value of our labour, in product markets. Once that labour is translated through effort, through management, through providing the adequate resources and other facilities of work to produce the goods and services that people actually want to buy in a product market. And unless we are able to realise the value of that potential value of labour, then we simply can't afford to pay the wages or take on the staff or maintain that level of staffing within an organisation. So product markets and labour markets are related. They're in a relationship. But product markets are absolutely in a primal situation within that relationship. Product markets set a maximum. They set the ceiling that firms can afford to pay. If we want to pay beyond that, if we want to pay more, then one way or another we have to be able to pass on that cost to somebody else, to our customers, to our consumers. And some organisations are in a position to do this. If an organisation is in a very advantageous market situation, if they're the market leader, if they have a product which is very valuable, very desirable, something that people will buy almost regardless of price, then sure, organisations can pass on that cost very easily. In more competitive situations where an organisation can be undercut, where maybe the brand of an organisation isn't as strong as it might be, then they are always going to face the challenge of having to compete on cost, which means that they have to be aware of the margins that they add on through the value that they provide to their employees through their pay packet. So product markets and our awareness of our product market situation is a very important thing to consider at the start of the design process for a reward system. It's also something to consider about the way in which that will have an effect on the broader employment relationship. Other things also come into play, and a lot of these things are interrelated with the nature of product markets, but other wider organisational factors that affect an organisation's ability to put together the kinds of rewards that employees are likely to find desirable. The nature of the industry that an organisation is within. It's not just that some industries have more advantageous product markets than others. It's also the fact that industries differ between each other. So some industries are very labour intensive and some industries are very technology intensive. Now, if you're in an industry that's very labour intensive, a huge proportion of your fixed costs are going to be people. They're going to be wrapped up in the wages, in the reward systems that you provide. And so organisations have to be very careful because that provides a much greater element of their fixed costs. So we tend to see that labour-intensive industries tend to pay less than technology-intensive industries. Similarly with size. Size doesn't always equate to success, but we tend to see that big companies will also tend to have big, deep pockets. And so that translates into ability to pay, and it translates into product market position, and so therefore that gets reflected in the attractiveness or the generosity of the rewards that are on offer. So big firms tend to pay more than small ones. And around all of this, regardless of market situation, some organisations make a clear strategic choice that they want to reward at a certain level. They want to be generous or they want to be not so generous. And this becomes a key part of their strategic direction and their strategic positioning in relation to the markets, both product market and labour markets. And so they may see that the rewards that they want to see to provide outside of their market constraints as a key part of what they think will provide competitive advantage